Welcome to the channel. In this video today, we're going over the Magicka Dragonknight for Ascending Tide. Now, this is a little different build, just because of the guild that I was rolling with. We were doing a trial, and unfortunately, the people just didn't have these sets, so we put them on. Put them all in Magicka. It actually worked out really well, so I thought I would just show you, and I'll go over a standard setup too. Sorry for my voice. I am kind of getting over strep throat. But let's go ahead and get into it. Max Magicka is 41.6k. Maximum health is 18.6. Magic recovery unbuffed is 1.6, and spell damage is 3.1k. Spell critical is 48.1%, and spell pen is 5.3, pretty much 5.4. Now, I am a Briton, so keep that in mind. Your stats may look a little different depending on what class you are, and if you're looking for more damage output, High Elf, Dark Elf, and Khajiit are your top 3. But if you're not looking for that in-game score pushing and you're just looking to have fun, you can really be any race you want. So I have 64 points here into Magicka. The boon I'm running is the Thief, and the food that I'm running, it says ice cream, but it's the Ghastly Eyeball. So now this gives me max Magicka, max recovery. But if you feel like you need a little more health, then you can always go with Which Most Potent Brew. Basically gives you 2.8k Magicka. Max health is 3k. It gives you a little bit of magic recovery. Or, if you're not having any trouble sustaining, none, go with Solitude Salmon Millet Soup. It gives you max health by 5.3. And it gives you pretty much 4.9k max Magicka. So, you have options. Personally, I'm pretty good on the health, so I usually just run the Ghastly Eyeball. That's just me. And there's times if I need stamina, I'll run just Crown Fortified Meal for the tri-stats. So, champion points in the green tree. For passive-wise, Gilded Fingers, Fortune Favors, and Steadfast Enchantment. Now, Gilded Fingers gives me an extra 10% gold from everything, and Fortune Favor gives me an extra 50% gold from treasure chests and safe boxes. Now, Steadfast Enchantment, basically when I use a weapon like a weapon enchant or something like that on my back bar of my weapon, I have a 50% chance to not use that charge, basically meaning my weapon will decrease. It will take 50% longer to basically for my weapon to run out of charge. Now, I keep Treasure Hunter on my bar at all times, basically increase quality of items you find in treasure chests. Really good to have, especially if you're farming that purple jewelry or just trying to farm some gold from dolmens and stuff like that. Treasure Hunter is absolutely great. Now, if you are in a normal dungeon, though, or a normal trial, this treasure chest, the Treasure Hunter passive will not give you a purple. Like, you're still going to get blue, but you might get an extra body piece or a weapon with that blue necklace. Now, I also use liquid efficiency. I do use spell power pots. So in this setup, so whenever you use a potion or poison, you have a 10% chance to not consume it. Spell power pots are expensive, and at least this way, I can get out of spending some gold. Now, I also keep Master Gatherer and Plentiful Harvest on my bar. It basically gives me, when I'm waiting on trials and dungeon groups to happen, I run around and farm. This basically, Master Gatherer gives me a 50% reduced time in gathering the nodes, and Plentiful Harvest gives me a 50% chance to double those resources I get from those nodes. Now, if you don't care about that when I'm doing something serious, I will swap him out for Steed's Blessing and Rationer. So, in the red tree, there are so many passives. So basically, Defiance, Tumbling, Hero's Vigor is a really good one to have, and it's one of those ones you want to get as soon as you can. Sprinter, Hasty, Tireless Guardian, Fortification, Nimble Protector, Savage Defense, and Bashing Brutality. Now, because we are a DK, we're going to be closer to the boss than most other DPS, especially Mag DPS. But if you have a stam near you, it's not going to be that serious. But you may want to bash. You may be in charge of bashing. So Savage Defense is really good because our stamina is limited, and this way it will reduce the cost of those bashes, and this will just increase the damage of those bashes. Another one that's a really good passive to have if you can spare the CP is Tempered Soul. Basically, if you get dropped and you have to get res, this way you come up with 10% more of your resources, and that's always a good thing. So now the ones I keep on my bar: Balanced Vitality, Fortified, Rejuvenation, and Siphoning Spells. So siphoning spells, unless they fixed it, you have to land the killing blow in order to get those resources back. Now, in the blue tree, passives, Eldritch Insight, Precision. I also keep Tireless Discipline here just for a little extra stamina. Piercing, Flawless Ritual, and War Mage. Now, once I keep on my bar, Fighting Finesse just increases my critical damage by 10%. And then I also keep Biting Aura, which increases the damage of my area effect attacks by 10%, and Thermometer, which increases my dots, my damage over time abilities by 10%. And then I have Master at Arms, which increases the damage of my direct damage attacks by 10%. Now, you have options here. If I get rid of anything on my bar, I get rid of Master at Arms. Now, if I can stay behind the enemy, they're not deep, the tank isn't running around or dancing with it, or we actually have a tank in the group, I use Backstabber. Gives me an extra 15% critical damage done. So in 4-man content, this is good because I don't hit the critical cap of 125. So I use this in 4-man. But if I'm in a trial, most of the times I'm probably going to hit that cap or come extremely close to it. I'll replace this with Wrathful Strikes or Untamed Aggression. It's up to you on which one you want to use, but in all honesty, just use the passives that you feel work best for you. For me, this is what works best for me. Maybe you like Deadly Aim over Master at Arms, but I would definitely leave because you are Magicka. We have a lot of area effect attacks, and we do have a lot of dots. So Thermometer and Biting Aura is something you definitely want to keep on your bar. You do not want to replace them too. The other two, you can mix and match to what you like, but to get the most out of your abilities, Biting Aura and Thermometer are the ones you want to keep. Now, sets. The first set, I'll just go with the Maelstrom Inferno Staff. This comes from normal Maelstrom Arena, and I have a charged weapon enchant on it. You'll soon see why. Basically what this does is that as long as wall is down, your light and heavy attacks deal additional 1.3k damage to enemies in your wall of elements. So, like I said, this comes from normal Maelstrom Arena. It's very easy to do. Just get in there. It might take you more than one run, but it is worth it. Now, the first 5-piece set that we're running is Catalyst. We're running a Precise Inferno Staff with a Frost Damage enchant. Now what this does, it gives us Max Magicka, critical chance, Max Magicka, and when you deal Flame Shock or Frost damage, you apply a stack of Flame Shock or Frost weakness to the enemy for 3 seconds. Each stack of an element weakness increases their critical damage taken by 5%. An enemy can only have one stack of each element weakness at a time. So, that wording is a little weird, but basically they can only have one Flame, one Shock, and one Frost. It is not one or the other. So, but basically you can have all three on the enemy at the same time, and that does happen. There is about a 4-second downtime, a 3 to 4 second downtime with this setup. I think if you use a Frost Staff, it would be better, but basically for whatever reason, they didn't have anybody else that could run this set. So in the group, so I was like, you know what? I have the Flame Staff on my Necromancer. I have the gear, so I'll just put it on and run it on this one. And it actually worked out pretty well. So this is a full support Magicka build. And basically, we run a Frozen Enchant on our front bar to proc the Frost damage stack for this ability. And we run a Shock Glyph on our back bar to proc the Shock. And of course, Magickas have tons of fire in their kit, so we will have no problem proccing that. Honestly, I think you will have a better uptime on the Frost damage one if you are running a Frost Staff. I just don't have a Frost Staff, at least in Precise and Golded Out. I just had the Inferno, so I went with that. But the DPS would probably be roughly around the same, or maybe a little less. But Inferno Staff, this works just fine for me. We had no issues clearing the content. So, now, I am running that on the front bar only, and then on the back, I have Shoes Divines with Max Magicka, Gloves Divines with Max Magicka, and Waist Divines with Max Magicka. Now, for the second 5-piece set that we're running, it is Zons. Zons is extremely good on a Magicka, and basically it gives us magic recovery, weapon and spell damage, max magicka, and your light attacks apply the touch of Zens on enemies for 20 seconds. Enemies with the touch of Zen take an additional 1% more damage for each damage over time effect you've placed on the enemy, up to 5%. You can only receive the benefit from 1 touch of Zon per enemy. So basically, I run it on the legs, chest, divines, max magicka, with jewelry, arcane, spell damage. These were in the golden vendor. I had the rings. There was a gold necklace as well. I just didn't get on that weekend to play, so I missed out on that, unfortunately. But all arcane with spell damage. Of course, your DPS will be a lot better if you go 3 bloodthirsty, 2 bloodthirsty, 1 infused, 2 infused, 1 bloodthirsty. Your DPS will be better, but we still pulled great numbers on the self buff, so it was just worth having. Now, our monster set was Encratis Behemoth. Gives us max magicka, and dealing flame damage to an enemy you behemoth grants you Behemoth's aura for 12 seconds that reaches up to 12 members. You and up to 11 group members in the aura reduces flame damage taken by 5%. Enemies in the aura increase their flame damage taken by 5%. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds. So basically, we were in a group of nothing but Magicka characters, so they were all using flame staffs, front and back bar. So this basically just made the monsters take more than 5% damage. So basically, I was running a full support setup. My DPS was on par. Could have been better if I had the right traits on the jewelry. If I had bloodthirsty or infused, could have been better, but arcane, it's still pretty solid. So, now, I guess I should say where these come from, so, they all come from DLC zones, I will say that. Encratis comes from Black Tree Villa. On normal, or not, you can't get this on normal, but you have to get it on vet. It can be kind of complicated, but it's not that bad. Especially if you do the side bosses, you can just run through it. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's Moongrove. No, it is Lair. Zen's comes from Lair of Marsalok. It's kind of a long dungeon. You just have to run and farm it. It can take a few runs, but as you see with the sticker book, it makes it really easy to just farm. So, and then Elemental Catalyst comes from, I want to say, the Cauldron. Not the Cauldron. No, it's Unleashed Ritual. It's Stone Guardian. I knew it was one of those. Like I said, again, it's just one of those ones that may take a little while to farm. You just have to run it. You'll eventually get it. It's not that, again, Stone Guardian, it's not that complicated on normal. You could do whichever one you find easiest on vet. Stone Guardian is probably the easier one on vet for the jewelry. But yeah, this is an entire support setup. It's just kind of what I threw together to help the trial team, because I'm new to the guild and I want to help. So this is kind of what I was running. Worked out pretty well. We have no issues getting through. Now, it's the exact same skills, the exact same everything. If you don't want to run a support setup, Zons, or Groftar, Alambris, all those, or Valkynscoria, all these sets will work great. You can even still use this one and still pull great DPS on your own. But Zons, Alambris, Groftar, and even Valkynscoria for the DPS monster sets would be great. If you want to switch out, I would still recommend Zen's, because it's so good even by yourself, and replace Catalyst. But if you don't want to do that, you have Burning Spellweave and Mother's Sorrow. Both of them sets are absolutely good. I might not have any Mother's Sorrow on me at this time, but Mother's Sorrow, Burning Spellweave is a really good setup to run. If you don't have your False Gods, Sororia, stuff like that. If you don't have that stuff, then it's not a big deal. Of course, if you don't have Trust. But Burning Spellweave, Mother Sorrow, Zons, Alambra, Groftar, Valkynscoria, you'll use the same skill sets, and you will be absolutely okay for DPS. Of course, you will pull better DPS than in this setup, because these are definitely more support set, but you won't have any problems either way. So, run the same traits. Enchants, though, I would use a fiery weapon enchant, And on the back bar, I would use a weapon damage enchant instead of a shock glyph. Or you can use a shock on the front bar if you want to instead of flame. It's up to you. But yeah, weapon damage enchant on the back bar instead. And then shock, flame, damage enchant on your front bar. Like I said, I would go flame. But whatever you want to do. So, skill-wise, Molten Whip is our spammable. Basically, lash an enemy flame dealing 9.7k flame damage. If you strike an enemy that is immobile or stunned, you set them off balance. Whenever you activate a different Arrogant Flame ability, you gain a stack of Seething Fury, increase the damage of your next Molten Whip by 33%, and your weapon is spell damage by 75 for 10 seconds. This stacks up to 3 times. So, show you fully buffed. Go ahead, we'll hit this. We'll get those stacks going up. This is how we usually start the fight. As you can see, it won't go past 3. So at 3, that is it. And we will just pop a pot because we don't have a weapon damage enchant or anything like that. And our spell damage goes to 3.9k. Our magic recovery is 2k. So it's pretty good. Pretty solid overall sets. Of course, spell damage will go higher based off of the buffs that you're getting from the healer and the tanks. But magic recovery is really solid. Usually, I was in that trial, I took a look at it, I was around 5.1k, sometimes 5.2. I don't understand why it was like a 100-point difference sometimes. At least I can't think of it off the top of my head. But overall, it was a pretty easy run. So, Burning Embers, slash an enemy with flame dealing 4.8k flame damage and additional 17.1k flame damage over 14 seconds. You heal for 100% of the damage done with this ability. Enemies hit by the initial hit are afflicted with the burning status effect. Engulfing Flames, Exhale Flame Blast enemies in front of you, dealing 7.2k flame damage and additional 12.8k flame damage over 14 seconds. Affected enemies take more damage from all flame damage attacks based on your weapon and spell damage, with a maximum 10% bonus damage taken. Current value 6%. Flames of Oblivion. Activate an aura of flames with launches a fireball at 3 enemies every 5 seconds, dealing 7.5k flame damage. While slotted, you gain Major Prophecy and Savagery, increasing your spell and weapon critical rating by 2.6. Inner Light. While slotted, you gain Major Savagery and Prophecy, and your max magic is increased by 5%. And Shooting Star. Call a comet down from the constellations to blast an enemy, dealing 17k flame damage to all enemies in the area and knocking them down and stunning them for 2 seconds. After impact, enemies in the target area take 4.8k flame damage every 1 second for 13 seconds. You generate 10 ultimate for each enemy hit by the initial blast. Now, you do have to have your Mage's Guild all the way up to 10 to get Meteor, to morph it to Shooting Star, or Ice Comet, whichever one you want to use. Ice Comet is frost damage, Shooting Star is flame, so just pick whichever one. But if you do not have your Mage's Guild fully leveled, then just go Elemental Rage on your front bar. This is the Destruction Staff ultimate, and you will be okay. For whatever reason, people still pick Dragon Leap, or not really Dragon Leap, but the other morph. Can it be morphed? Am I on the right morph? No, I haven't morphed it. Some people will take Ferocious Leap. Deals flame damage after leaping, you gain a damage shield. I get that. But when you're in a dungeon or a trial and you Ferocious Leap and you knock them mobs everywhere, they are stunned and cannot be regrouped. And it is a good way to probably get kicked out of that dungeon or trial. So do not use stuff like this. Just don't. I understand it. If you're solo and you want to use it, go for it. But if you're in a group, don't. Just don't. Just don't. Shooting Star, Elemental Rage, or you can double bar this. Or you can even put Dawnbreaker on your front bar if you want for a little extra weapon damage. So, just don't use Leap. As a main tank, I cannot tell you how annoying it is for that. So back bar, we have Blockade of Fire. Slam your staff down to create a flame barrier in front of you, dealing 1.2k flame damage to enemies in the target area every 1 second. Burning enemies take 20% more damage from this ability. Now keep in mind, we have Zons, we have Catalysts, we have Engulfing Flames here where they'll take more damage, and we have Burning Embers where they're instantly burned. So the numbers that you see here will be better just because of all the extra damage that we're going to have them dealing. So, Eruption. Summon a Scorching Cloud of Ash at the target location, dealing 7.2k flame damage immediately, reducing enemy's movement speed by 70% and dealing 1.8k flame damage in the area every 1 second for 18 seconds. The eruptive damage can occur once every 10 seconds. So, Barb Trap, more of a trap piece. It's not fully level for me, but when triggered, the trap deals, it'll last for 15 seconds. It takes 2 seconds to arm it, roughly. At full stacks, this will last for 18 seconds once it's fully ranked, but mine is not. It deals a nice little bleed damage, 4.4k bleed damage on the initial hit, and additional 14.1k bleed damage over 16 seconds, and grants you minor force, increasing your critical damage by 10% for the duration. So this gives us minor force, plus it's a dot for Zens. And I'll go over those in a second. We have Degeneration. Deals 15.6k magic damage over 12 seconds. Says his magic spills out from them, granting you major brutality and sorcery, increase your weapon and spell damage by 20% for 24 seconds. Once this is fully morphed, this will last, I believe, for 15 seconds, I want to say. I could be wrong on that, but I believe it is like 15 seconds. Scalding Ruins. Inscribe a rune of cosmic fire on the earth, which takes 2 seconds to arm and lasts for 18 seconds. When triggered, the rune blasts all enemies in the target area for 9.3k flame damage and additional 8.8k flame damage over 14 seconds. And then Standard Might. Call down a battle standard dealing 4.4k flame damage every 1 second for 20 seconds to enemies and applying major defile to them, reducing their healing, receiving health recovered by 16%. Standing in the area increases your damage done and reduces damage taken by 15%. An ally near the standard can activate the Shackle Synergy, dealing 10.6k flame damage to enemies in the area and mobilizing them for 5 seconds. This is mostly used for that increase, that 15% damage. So that's why we use this. If it's just a trash pool mob, just use Shooting Star or Elemental Rage. But our main ultimate is Standard Might. Now, this is another Mage's Guild ability in Fire Ruin and into Scalding Ruin. Now, this is one of our dots that we use to help with Zons. But, like I said, if you do not have Mage's Guild leveled up, like, once you get to 3, you get Degeneration, you'll have Inner Light at 1. So, and you can get those extremely easy and extremely quickly. But Scalding Ruins is kind of a later Mage's Guild one. Mage's Guild line. So, it could take a minute to get that. So, if you don't have this fully leveled or up there to that point, you're going to be a dot short. Because this is one of our dots. And if that's the case, then you can replace it with Destructive Touch. You go Touch, take it to Clinch. Converts the damage over time into a new effect based on your staff. So the Flame Clinch also knocks the enemy back. So it might be Destructive Reach here. Yeah, just use Reach. And basically what this is going to do is that it's going to apply a dot. It's going to be a flame dot, I believe. But it's basically going to be a dot. So that's going to keep that dot for us. So Scalding Ruins. So if you don't have your mages leveled up, use Destructive Reach. That will count as a dot. Degeneration here is a dot. This is a dot. So that's 3, 4, 5. So there's our 5 dots. Now, I wish I could say, when it comes to the DPS wise, in this support setup, 38.4. Almost 38.5k. Now, if I would have my jewelry and arcane, or not arcane, but bloodthirsty and infused, this would have been better. This probably would have been closer to 40k, or north of 40k. But I didn't, so it wasn't. But this is self-buff on a 3-man. I wish I could say the rotation is easy. Normally I like to keep the rotations easy, but for Zens, for a Zen setup, it's with all these dots, they're not going to match. So basically when it comes to doing the rotation and starting it, you'll always hit Flames of Oblivion 3 times just to get that proc up. Because you want that extra spell damage. Alright, so you'll get that going 3 times. Trap, Ruin, Pop Pot. And then I usually go Wall, Eruption, Degeneration, Bar Swap, Engulfing Flames, Searing Strike, and then throw a couple whips out. Usually I just run the whips until I know my dots are starting to run out, and then I just go back. And you can absolutely just repeat this. You know, just repeat the back. Every 2 rotations, use Trap Beast. But as you can see, up there at the top, it's a little air out of, there's the frost, there's the fire. And as long as you keep your wall down, your electric, all this stuff, it will still proc. Now I got a front bar, boom, there it goes. It's all there. You'll see all 3 of them up there. So, use your Shooting Star if you want to after the first initial Standard Might, stuff like that. But the rotation, Unfortunately, it's not static. There's no way to really get to static, so it is kind of a dynamic rotation. Um, but you can start off with the base. Oh, I'm kind of lagging there. Start off with the basic dots, and then just kind of, as you come back to reapply degeneration, which lasts for 12 seconds or so, uh, you can just restart the back over. You know, and just do degeneration, then scalding ruins, and just kind of keep it going like that if you want to. That might make it a little easy. It is complicated, but the DPS is there, and it adds a lot of support for the rest of the group. But like I said, I did this for a trial stream, and my DPS was pretty solid with it. So I thought I would show just a full MagDK support setup. And if you want to be, if you don't really care about support, and you just want to be straight DPS, Mother Sorrow on your body, your 5 body pieces here, Mother Sorrow, or jewelry. You can do Mother Sorrow jewelry, because those are easy to get overland. Burning Spell Weave on the body, and Burning Spell Weave Inferno Staff. And then Monster Set, Groftar, Elambris, Falcon Scoria, or Zons. The easiest one out of them to get would probably be Elambris, followed by Groftar. And then Falcon Scoria, City of Ash 2, and Zons is Scalecaller Beak, and they can be really difficult on Vet. So, but yeah, let me know what y'all are running on your MagDK. Let me know how you're enjoying the MagDK this patch. Until next time, take care.